could you maybe say something about your new book, Approaching the Secret Doctrine?
Yes, the book is on its way. The printers finally got it printed. We had, well, like in anything that is a theosophical project, you think you will go from A to B, but it's always like this. You will get to B, but not in a straight line. So we had our own difficulties, but it's finally out. What I did in that book is part of what I tried to do, is part of what we were talking about. I love the secret doctrine. I was fortunate to be born in a country where every earnest member has studied the secret doctrine. So we were in touch with members who knew the secret doctrine, and it's far easier to understand it when you have that support around. And I always liked it, but at the same time, not only myself, but in the youth group, we were interested in seeing how this is practical, how this can help us see life differently, live in a different way. And we really found it quite inspiring. So what I try to do in this book is to help others in that process. So the book has 3 parts. The first one is about how to study the secret doctrine, so that the study is not just an intellectual study, but it's a way of trying to raise our consciousness to the higher mind and to the intuitive nature. And this is all based on what Blavatsky herself said of how the secret doctrine should be studied, with some of my experience also. Then the second part is about the main teachings in the first volume of the Secret Doctrine. I didn't deal with the second one because then I wouldn't finish the book. In the future, maybe I'll deal with the second one. So the second part of the book is about the main teachings that we find in the first volume of the Secret Doctrine. And the third part is all the practical application of the teachings. Practical application, I try to show in what way we can study the secret doctrine so that whatever we are studying about the logos and cosmic processes, Blavatsky clearly says that because of this feature of the cosmos that as above, so below, let's say, that everything that is described at a cosmic level can be applied to our minds, can be applied to our person, our personality. So I showed a little there how this can be done. And then I proposed several exercises to do during our daily life and several meditations to try to bring a deeper realization of whatever we study in the secret doctrine beyond just the ideas.
Thank you. I think I definitely need to read the book because the actual book is a bit too intimidating for me. Yeah, I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah, it is intimidating. I remember going to my first lodge meeting and they were studying the Mahatma letters. So they mentioned the secret doctrine in passing with this kind of respect and awe, I'm in the secret doctrine. So I noticed that title, and I hadn't read anything theosophical because this was my first meeting there. So after the meeting, I said, I want that book you talked about, the secret doctrine. So the member said, oh no, that book is too difficult. Take this. And she gave me At the Feet of the Master, which I read in 5 minutes and brought it back and say, well, this is all very nice, but it's more or less what I learned in church, which is not at the level I couldn't, grasp the depth of At the Feet of the Master. But anyway, so I said, I want the secret doctrine. So then she gave it to me and I started reading it and I couldn't understand anything. So then I saw why she didn't want to give me that book. But then in the youth group, I went after a couple of months to my first meeting there, and there were young people there that had already started. There was a friend, he was 16, and he was an expert in the secret doctrine. That was amazing. So I would stay hours talking to him, and several others. They would all be talking about the absolute and the logos, and so I had a lot of help with that. But definitely, it's hard to study it by yourself. So it's not your problem. It's just how it is.
But you took the effort to stay back and to explore, to seek some help from others. Yeah, it shows that you're like really, really genuinely, like I realize if we genuinely want to know something, or if we are genuinely interested in something, it will come, and somehow we pull this ability within us to understand it. And yeah.
Now, as much as I love the secret doctrine, that doesn't mean that every single theosophist should study the secret doctrine, or that if you don't, you are not a good theosophist. The theosophy is far more than that. There are again, we need to respect the nature of the different theosophies. Some people may not be inspired at all by the secret doctrine, and many people knowing the secret doctrine from the first to the last page may be completely non-spiritual people. So, I try to help those who want to study the secret doctrine, but not because I think every theosophist should do this.
I understand.
Could you speak a little bit about the theosophical author, or maybe one or two authors who influenced you the most during your theosophical journey, or maybe even somebody from outside the actual theosophical literature, but spiritual books?
Mm-hmm. Yes, within the theosophical literature, I think that my early influences were Blavatsky and the Mahatma letters. Then I started being able to appreciate the writings of Beza and Leadbeater. I think they explored aspects in meditation and the higher consciousness, which in my view, Blavatsky didn't have time to explore. She just gave a few hints, and they developed all that a lot more. And then, Krishnamurti was a very strong influence in me also in the psychological aspect, and Jeffrey Hudson, I would say also. So more or less those, although I enjoyed most theosophical authors. I think, the Masters and HPB, Beza, Leadbeater, Krishnamurti, and Hudson probably were the strongest influence. Outside the TS, I like very much like the traditional teachings, like Patanjali, teachers like Patanjali and Shankaracharya. I like Vedanta. I like the Raja Yoga. More modern people in Vedanta, I mentioned Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj. I think they were really, because there are many Hindu gurus that, I don't see much in them, but people like Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta, I think they had a level of enlightenment that we can really learn from. Outside that, in Tibetan Buddhism, I have studied, especially I like Dzogchen and Mahamudra, which is a more non-dualistic aspect of Tibetan Buddhism. I'm more attracted in general to Hinduism than Buddhism. But in these aspects, Dzogchen and Mahamudra, I really like it. Like in Dzogchen, I like Namkhai Norbu. He's a Tibetan monk who is very open-minded. The way he presents Dzogchen is, to me, has a lot of theosophical spirit. And then I like the Greek philosophy, especially the Neoplatonism, Plotinus, and Proclus and Porphyry. I have read some things, not so much, but I like them. But I suppose Plotinus and Iamblikos, they are on the opposite ends of Neoplatonism. One is pure metaphysics, the other is more occultism. Iamblikos is more like occultism. But I like them a lot. So I think those would be, those would be the main influences that I had. Then, of course, I have read some of Taoism and the Tao Te Ching, and I have read from some of Kabbalah and things like that, but those were not texts that necessarily nourished my spiritual life too much.
Thank you. That's very interesting. Do you have any time to read for pleasure, some literature that is not connected with spiritual quest, we may say? Yeah. And maybe you have a favorite book or favorite author?
Yeah, less and less. I mean, I read a lot of classical literature, Burns, Stevenson, and all those. When I was a kid, I had a grandpa that used to send me those books, and I would read them. Then when I started college and all that, I just didn't have much more time. What I do is sometimes I listen to audiobooks, when I go for a walk, when I'm doing something, then I listen to some audiobook. But yeah, I don't have much time to study or to read other things. Not that I think it's a waste of time. I actually enjoy studying or reading literature, but the problem is that my work in general is so intellectual that when I have a free time, I don't feel like engaging intellectually in another task. So that's the main reason why I don't.
So, like while we're on the topic of, I feel like stories can be very powerful in conveying meaning in a very universal way that everyone can take something out of it. So, do you have any particular maybe some interesting stories about in your journey in Theosophy, or any funny or interesting stories that you want to share?
Well, I guess there are some anecdotes. In general, they are connected to how I came across some understanding of something, that I was studying or working on. I remember I had a girlfriend that lived like 4 hours away from where I lived when I was in college. So on weekends, I would take a bus and go there and spend the weekend. And one time I took a bus. I got there like at midnight. I went knock on the door or ring the bell of the apartment, and nobody answered. And after a while, nobody answered. So I was really confused what was going on, and it was like 1 a.m. and I didn't have anywhere to go. So I took another bus to a close by town where there were other people that I could stay with. So in that bus, I was angry, I was puzzled, I was worried, I didn't know what was going on. So all these emotions were there, and I started pulling all the theosophical tools. Okay, I'm burning out karma. Well, that didn't help. Okay, this is, I tried to reinterpret things, and that didn't help. I pulled a theosophical book, I started reading, and that I couldn't read, I couldn't see through my emotions, the pages of the book. So eventually, I realized there's nothing I can do. I cannot escape it. I cannot, try to redirect it. There is nothing I can do. The only thing that I can do is just to accept it, that is there, and just stay with it. And the moment that I had that insight, the whole emotional state disappeared, and I was in peace, just like, magic. So then I thought, this is what Krishnamurti talks about, that just stay with whatever is there, and watch it, and and this solves the problem. So then I thought, well, this is great. I was looking forward to getting angry again to do this and and practicing. And soon enough, I got angry about something else, and I started watching it. And I started watching it, and nothing was happening. And I started thinking, what is going on? This is not working. It worked so well, and eventually, after trying and trying, I gave up. And I thought, okay, that was a fluke. This is not helping, and I'm angry here, and I don't know what to do. So again, I just stopped fighting it, because even in trying to watch it, I was trying to watch it in order to make it go away. So I just had to accept it, and then again, that thing dissolved. So I learned there that when what we need to do with our emotional states is to learn to embrace them without resistance, not as a clever trick to make them go away, because then that means we are resisting the state. If we can embrace them with complete acceptance and just hold them and stay with it, then the state gets dissolved on its own. But not if we do it with an agenda, because that means we are not accepting it. Sometimes Krishnamurti says, look at the anger or whatever it is, as you look at a beautiful flower. When you look at a beautiful flower, you look at it in the sense that you unite with it. You are not looking at it to make it go away or anything. So that was an interesting insight. That's when I more or less began to understand what Krishnamurti was talking about.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think a lot of us can relate to that. Like when we're in a stressful situation, like when we're angry or when we're getting emotional, we try to pull out all of the tricks that we've learned. But I guess in the end, it's all the mind and our need to react to things, that our need to maybe to do something to that kind of comes out in such situations. And it's all kind of, we're just still kind of get pulled along by the mind and its patterns. And it's actually really hard to just be still, like you said, be still and watch it. And I feel like a lot of people, a lot of us who when we have really low moments or maybe even depressed, we try to do anything but to sit with it, to really acknowledge and accept it and to unite with it. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like it's such a simple thing, yet the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, if you think, we try to do something about it because we don't want it to be there, because it's painful, so we don't want it there. But the one that doesn't want the emotion there is our ego, let's say. And the ego is the barrier that is blocking the influence of our spiritual nature. So the way that we have to relate to all these things is a way in which the ego is not involved. So I think the key in this process is when we can let go of the ego. The ego is this process that is constantly defending itself, protecting itself, building itself up. So if we can let go of all reactions and we can just accept what is there and just embrace it just because it is there, embrace it with no agenda, then that takes the ego off the equation, and then a higher order may come and bring that order into our emotions. That is the operation of the higher nature, which can happen when we can let go of the ego.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really, really powerful.
Yes, I also noticed that when we do such exercises as this, sometimes by necessity, when something painful, some painful experience is there, it doesn't go away immediately, but it comes, and if you manage not to get absorbed into it, but just observe, every time it comes back, it's a little weaker, isn't it? And then finally it goes away, like a piece of ice melting in the sun. That's maybe an allegory.
Yeah, and we have to work with these states whenever they come up. It's not that we do it one time and then it's over. I mean, whenever they come up, we work in the same way. And yes, sometimes the state goes away gradually, and sometimes it happens all of a sudden. We have no control over that, and we should have no expectations. Like when it happened on that bus, it was instantaneous from 1 second to the other. But the state was very intense, and the insight was also quite intense, I suppose. Then in normal situations, you just stay with it, and then naturally, gradually, it just disappears, and then there is a sense of harmony that comes on its own. So yeah, the graduality is the more normal experience.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the conclusion of that story?
No, she had allergies, had taken some antihistamine, and was knocked out. I left a sign under the door. So the next morning she called, and it was nothing that I had imagined or or as it's usual.
As usual, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I thought she went out with she was. I knew that day she had a friend that a girlfriend that they had known since they were kids. And she said, I'm going to spend some time with her, and then I'll be home waiting for you. So I thought that maybe they had gone out or something, and she forgot the time or something like that. But no, obviously it wasn't anything I anticipated.
Yeah, totally. It's always not as bad or not as dramatic as what we think it is. Oftentimes it's not always about us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And like speaking of your what you remembered in your life and moments in your life, so maybe just to wrap up, we can I just want to know, if you can go to just one point in your life, where would you go? Would it be anytime in the past, or anytime in the near future, or even a few hours later? And why?
Go in what sense? Like
to know, or not know. I mean, like to go and to
experience
see, or
it,
to
probably.
experience it.
Well, one thought that, I mean, when you were first talking about, I assumed that it was in the past, and the image that came to my mind was the day that I got to the Theosophical Center for my first, meeting with the young Theosophists. I remember that day very clearly, and I felt home, when I got there. So in the past, I guess I would go to that day. In the future, I would be interested in seeing my last few seconds, the life of this body, and seeing what kind of life this personality had, and if it did okay, I would be curious to see what kind of life happened. So those are the two thoughts that came to my life. I actually look really forward, not in a morbid way, but I look forward to that awesome moment where you say, okay, the work is done, and now comes this amazing adventure after you leave the body behind. It must be a very exciting moment, at least for a Theosophist, I suppose. So I'm not that I want it to come as soon as possible, but I'm looking forward to that moment and experiencing that.
Yeah, totally. I think that since coming to TS and getting to know the ancient wisdom and how about death and after what lies ahead, I don't feel fear for death as much as the same way I used to. What I fear is not using my time well. Mm-hmm. That's still a fear that I have to work through, but it's different. It's knowing that that's what's important, living this life to my best ability and to be able to say I've done a good job and now I'm so I can look forward to an awesome adventure later on. Yeah,
that's the same that I was thinking, see if we can die with that in mind. Okay, I had a good life, I done what I could do, and it is good.
Yeah, and also, would you like to be an honorary member of the TN?
Of the Young World Federation of Young Theosophists.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Oh, great. Sure. If I can help in any way, I'll be honored and happy to do so. I can. If you need to, I can get some. I don't know, for my beard to be a little more black and look a little younger.
It already looks black.
I'm kidding. It would be an honor, and in whatever way I can help you. As I said, the youth group was so meaningful and is so meaningful in my life that I want others to have the opportunity to experience it, and I really look forward to the insights of the new generation. So thank you, and I'll be honored.
And if I'm not wrong, being an honorary member, you can attend our gatherings, the youth gatherings. So it would be nice to be able to see you there, among other honorary members.
All right, very good. Thank you.
And just to add something, I've been watching your videos for a while. So Mr. Pablo, so at first we watched your videos on screen, and then the effect of only seeing someone on screen and being inspired by them, I felt like you were like a celebrity. Yeah, for a while. So it's really cool to be able to interact with you, interacting with someone that you only see on screen. And hopefully I get to see you in real life as well. I'm sure the others have seen you in real life, and to be able to just make friends and have more conversations. Yeah.
Yes, I understand, we see somebody on the screen, but I'm just a guy, and I'm happy. And I never liked that to portray an image. This was actually something that in the youth group we argue with the older members that for them to be a speaker or a teacher, you have to appear as different from the rest. So they would give lectures in a very formal way and standing, and and I would always give my lectures sitting and making jokes at the beginning, mainly
that's the appeal.
Yeah, and also because the message is, hey, we are all humans struggling, learning, enjoying, and that's really it. So yeah, when I give my talks, I not always, most of the times I don't make jokes and things like that, just because I'm absorbed in the ideas. But in daily life, I like to joke a lot. It's very often that people tell me, oh, I didn't know you are funny. I didn't know you make jokes. And I say, what do you think? I was just a talking head there. Yeah.
Yeah, you do seem much more serious in your talks.
Yeah. Well, because it's just that unless I'm talking in an environment that is like this or something, I have to connect to the trend of ideas to be able to express them as best as I can. So I'm really focused on following the trend of ideas, and then it's a serious talk.
Well, I think it's a good time to finish our interview. It's very good talking to you. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights. I think it has been rich and inspiring. And I hope the video and the audio will be soon published in several platforms, several formats for many people to be able to watch and listen. And certainly looking forward for future meetings and future cooperation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
keep on doing this. This is a great idea. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Pablo, for taking time to do this with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
And thank you, Miriam and Seth, for being here all the way.
Hey, it's really, really late there, Seth, and now Miriam is really early over there.
Mhm.
You
It was
guys
really
wanna
nice
say
to listen to.
something?
Yeah, just that. It was very interesting and inspiring to listen to. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
I actually very enjoyed waking up early, and I have to say that this is a wonderful way to start the week. Yeah, very inspiring, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all. Okay, have a good day then, or night.
You too.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, see you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Bye.